Two Chaps, Many Cultures, episode 100. I almost can't believe it. 100. And for this jubilee, for this anniversary episode, we decided to bring on a very special guest. It's a very special guest to me, particularly, and very special to other people as well. And she's going to talk about juggling chainsaws as a female immigrant entrepreneur. Stay tuned. A 100. How did we do that, Brett?
I don't know. We just turned up.
Yay! Hello, audience. Thank you. We haven't said anything yet. Yes,
Relax. Okay.
Yeah. Simmer down. It's all good.
Settle down, people. We know that the live studio audience here at Two Chaps Towers and gas station, I guess. We're opening up a gas station. Yes, 100 episodes. I'm excited. This is fun. I mean, like 100 episodes. That's 20 weeks, every weekday, by the way. Every day for 20 weeks, turning up. Am I doing the math? I should never do it.
You just added up like.
I think that's right.
It's 100. The number 100 is what should impress you folks, right? This is do that.
Yeah. Do that.
We've been thinking about who could we bring on for episode 100, and then I thought of somebody that's very dear and near to me who should have been on maybe on episode 1 technically. And then people were, nepotism, and you're playing favors, and then she didn't have time, and then she didn't want to, and all sorts of stuff, right? So even our dog is excited about the fact that she's going to be here today. So
I want to get the dog in stereo today. This is great.
Yeah, you get it from different angles. So she's joining us from within the Two Chaps Towers office in Atlanta, just on a different floor. Welcome to the program, Brigitte, my beloved wife and partner in crime, and the woman behind the idiocy that I display on this camera.
Come on, take that back. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. This is exciting. Took you freaking 100 episodes to get me on. Are you freaking kidding me? No, I'm really honored. I'm honored, and I want to celebrate you. Get back here, Christian. Get back here, Brett. I want to celebrate you. I want to celebrate the two of you. You started this which month? March?
We don't remember.
We
were not keeping track well enough.
Don't make me do math. Someone's going to lose an eye. Don't make me do math.
So I'm going to say you started sometime in March or April, because I recall Christian and you working on it as we went into the pandemic, and you stayed in it, consistent, every day.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's huge. Like, that's a huge celebration. And I'm all about celebrations. I'm all about, anchoring in everything that you have done, anchoring in the beauty of the labor and the work and the effort and the success and everything that you have done. Congratulations.
Yes, Brett. Awesome.
Checks in the mail.
So now I wonder who you're going to have on an episode 200. How are you going to up that one?
It's a downhill from here, honey, as you know it. So we probably get canceled after this. The syndicate will say this was it. You reached your peak. Now there's a specific reason why I wanted you to talk with us a little bit. Yes, you're my wife, and yes, sure, I'm playing favors, and it's great for you to be a queen. I can see on you. Lift your cup again so people see that.
I got this from one of my staff members. I don't know what the message was that she was sending me.
Yeah, and you received quite a few messages as an entrepreneur who, yes, you're a U.S. citizen, you're dual citizen, and yet you came to the United States with a very German mindset because that was where you spent most of your upbringing and formative years. So, being an entrepreneur as an immigrant, as a woman in the U.S., I think you've got a ton of stories to tell about this. And since we're talking about different cultures and the culture of business and the business of culture here on this program, what was some of the hard lessons you had to learn as a female immigrant in the United States?
Gosh, how much time we got? Let me roll up my sleeves here really
12
quick.
minutes.
So, coming from Midtown Munich and moving with a toddler in one hand and a business plan in the other, and then the whole household in tow. From Midtown Munich to,
can I stop? You mean a real baby, not Christian, when you say baby.
I don't refer to my husband as a baby or a child. Her name is Amelie. She's 18 in the meantime.
Sorry. It's 100. I'm celebrating. I'm in a funny mood. I'm just
let me get the bubbly real quick.
I know. Where's the bubbly, for crying out loud, right? No, okay. So yeah, so Christian was in that as well. Yes, as my partner in crime, to build a Montessori school. And hey, Joe, and I built a business in a small town in Tennessee. Now, here's this German young girl. Well, I was a woman, but perceived as a young girl. What does she know? Building. Thank you. Building a Montessori school. So I really, for about a good 3 years, I had to do a lot of explaining. I had to do a lot of groundwork and really getting credibility, not just because I came from a different country, but because I was a young woman or I am a young woman. So there was not just the cultural difference, which was huge, and I'm going to come to that in a second, but also as a woman, and then being in a community and serving on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, along with a majority of older, they were at least 25 years plus older than me, men. So it was a very male dominant community, still is. And here I am, carrying the flag of education, coming from Germany and putting a Montessori school in a new area where they never heard of Montessori. I led my team in a very German way, thinking that's going to work really well because that's all I knew. Yeah, I came up in corporate Germany, and I knew how to lead. And the very blueprint kind of way was, this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it not today, not tomorrow. Actually, we're going to do it yesterday. So chop chop, let's get with it. And I remember one of my staff members back then said, "Oh, welcome to the South. We're all a little bit more laid back, so you'll get used to that." And I remember telling her, "No, not as long as you work for me, you're not." Well, I had to adapt too, right? And that's the lesson that I had for me. If I wasn't going to adapt, my business was going to go under. And I did have some real struggles and real challenges, but I did not give up, and I continued to pour into myself and learn that there are cultural differences.
The importance of understanding, like, regionality in a country is so important. And even when we're working with clients that are going to a country or coming to the US, that we may have an awareness about that regionality. Those specifics are, this would have been a different story if you'd have moved to, say, San Francisco, right? Or this is how important it was. So that's the first thing I always thought. I was thinking about this episode and talking to you, Brigitte, is that I was putting myself in your shoes. A young woman, but coming to the South, in a place, in a fundamentally an agrarian framework and society that really saw experience and knowledge and wisdom, and people with no hair like me, with a certain age as kind of just automatically getting the credibility without even trying. You know, they don't need much behind them. And so that was what I was thinking. That's just a fascinating thing, and something we should always bring up, and something that people should think about when they're moving to any country, I guess, right?
Yeah.
That one employee that you mentioned, Brigitte, that told you, "Oh, we're here in the South, and you'll get used to the fact that we're a little bit more laid back down here." After that conversation, how much longer did she work for you?
Oh, not much longer. She didn't. I think she made the decision to no longer work for me because I wasn't going to give up, right? And Tennessee is a right to work state, so I had a huge turnover. I had a very, very large turnover in teachers in the beginning, and that was a big problem because with that huge turnover of me not being able to adapt to the culture, thinking, the culture will adapt to me, right? It's my business. You might as well just adapt to me. So I had a huge turnover in teachers, and therefore I had a huge turnover in parents that brought their kids to my school because they're going, well, if she cannot hold teachers, there's something going on and I want no part of it. So it hurt my business until I realized I got to start working on me. I cannot continue to put everything out on my staff and say, this is what you got to do. This is how you got to do it. I got to work on me. And that's when I started, heavily investing in business development and personal development and learning. And I was actually Christian's first client in learning, I got to adapt. I got to adapt to the culture. That was a bitter pill to swallow.
That was long before I did what I do now officially. I think that's a phenomenon that we see with a lot of immigrant businesses, that they initially surround themselves with employees that are from the same or a similar culture. So some stereotypical examples here in the US would be the South Asian community who employs their kind, quote unquote. Maybe they don't speak the same language, but a Punjabi business owner would work with Gujaratis, or a Vietnamese cosmetic studio would work with Cambodian or Laotian employees because of similar behaviors or a similar mindset, a business mindset that is automatically pre-aligned. That didn't work for you because you needed an employee base that could relate to the kids and the parents, build the bridge between your rigid structure and the more nurturing style that you encountered in Southeast Tennessee. So I think that is something that a lot of immigrant entrepreneurs face. That's a challenge that a lot of immigrant entrepreneurs face, is who do I hire and how do I make a team that both serves my clients, which are mostly of a different or from a diverse cultural background, and oftentimes not mine, and how do I create a team that works well together, still in alignment with my business goals, right? That's a huge challenge for a lot of immigrant entrepreneurs. I mean, Brett, you owned a business too in the US, right?
Yeah, I've had a number of businesses, and I think that it was one of the things that really affected them. I bought an existing business here to the US as well, right? So it was basically doing exactly the same thing, taking my leadership style and the practices that I knew and that had worked quite well back home, and then applying them to a completely different set of employees and also clients, that really turned up with a different mindset, and that was a huge learning curve for me, right? But I had obviously a privilege of a lot of business partners in that had already kind of gave me a bit of a runway on that. But it's a big learning, and I think for even in the world of mobility, when we're working with the couple that are moving, and the spouse that's working goes there with a job and has a kind of a base that they can walk into. Oftentimes the partner will say, I think I'll go to this country and I'll think about maybe starting a business, or doing something like that. And then, they're kind of thinking, oh, well, this is great. I've got this great experience home. I can just kind of recreate it in the new country. And there's a whole bunch of different challenges that come up with that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think the key is for me that it's not failure, because if I look back, it was great feedback for me. It was It was a great learning opportunity, and that's where maybe some companies are specifically, from the German culture. We don't like to fail. We don't like to be wrong. And I can only speak out of my own experience, but being able to see it as a feedback and continue to adapt and learn and apply what I've learned and ask for forgiveness and go, okay, can I, let's move on and let's do it in a way that works better. So, the business is still around. So I must have done something right.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I think Brigitte probably doesn't want to sing her own praise, so let me do that. The Montessori school started with 3 children in our personal residence in on a separate floor in our home, and I think was it starting this school year, or is it starting in January, Brigitte? Correct me. The capacity of the school now is at 120 students?
125 is what we can take in since July.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're close to 85, 90 at the moment during a time of pandemic. We moved facilities from a big facility to a rather large facility now, and we're continuing to grow. So we ended last school year, I think, with 76 students, and we're continuing to grow during a pandemic. Now, if you know of anything in businesses that grow or that are developed or have a foundation during a pandemic are set up for great success. And that's what I'm really excited about.
Well,
if you continue to learn as a business owner.
Well, and we called this episode "Juggling Chainsaws" because that is one of your catchphrases when you describe how you see your work life or your life, including work and outside of work. What do you make that mean for yourself when you say you're juggling chainsaws in your roles, plural?
Yeah. And I think it's not just for me. I see that in a lot of, specifically women. I'm pretty sure men experience that phenomenon too, but I have a lot of women that I work with, and the Montessori school is something that I'm very passionate about, but it's not my day-to-day operations anymore. Andrew Renwick is doing an incredible job in operating and running it, and being the new CEO of the company. And I'm just super thrilled that him and Rachel are running it so beautifully and growing it. But in my coaching practice and in the NLP Center of Atlanta, I work with women that are juggling chainsaws. So they're mothers. A lot of them are mothers of young children. They're business owners. They have a household to run. They have courses to create. One of my clients, on top of everything else, in her real estate business, she's an actress. So there's many chainsaws. There are many things up in the air all at the same time, and it's up to us as a successful businesswoman to not just keep everything up, while you're juggling it, but actually, if it catches your hand, that you're catching it on the right side. Because if you're catching the chainsaw on the wrong side, that's lethal, right? That's you don't want to do that. So the juggling chainsaw is a nice visual that I give on what business women that are, that have a spouse, that have a business, that have kids, that have a household, that are, there to have a home cooked meal for the family members. There are a lot of chainsaws up in the air at any given moment.
I've got a question about, because you mentioned before about learning about yourself, right? And this is obviously, we do this in our work when we're doing culture, where getting people to reflect first on what makes them tick, what their values are, and that kind of stuff. So what advice do you have for people? What does that look like? What is that? I mean, how important is that? I just want to really kind of drill down on that, because it is, you know, yes, you are juggling the chainsaws, but that's a lot of external stuff, right? But
Right.
what is it that people need to? I just watched a video this morning where someone said, you know, I'm not a mother anymore. My kids are grown up. I'm not a wife anymore. I'm divorced. I'm not really interested in dating, that kind of stuff, you know. And then there's lots of great people that say, well, just work on yourself. You know, just do stuff for yourself. And she was saying, what does that look like even? I've never done that. I've never had practice at doing that. You know, everything has been about other people in my life. And for women especially, that really are, from a gender point of view, the caregivers of, you know, the perception is they're the caregivers of the world, right? And they make make great leaders and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a long question, but I'm just saying, you know, where is that for somebody who has spent their life and their time looking after other people and now have to really make that mind shift?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And one part of the chainsaws should be self-care, to not lose sight of yourself, right? And in self-care is, you know, maybe going to yoga or working out or pouring into yourself, reading a good book, being part of a book club, or listening to something that inspires you. So the ones that are what you said, Brett, is, you know, it's everything is very external. We're taking care of business, that's external. We're taking care of our kids, of our family, of our spouse, of our dog, of our whatever, but we're losing ourselves in that whole juggling. If you imagine two circles, like think of the logo of Target. This is not a plug to Target, but think of the logo of Target. There's an inner red circle and there's an outer circle. When we juggle chainsaws, it's often what we're juggling is the outer circle, which is our circle of concern. So in the circle of concern is everything that we look outward. The inner circle is the circle of influence. That's actually ourselves. No one can influence us as good as we influence ourselves. And that comes from the outside in. But no one else can motivate me but me. I can only motivate myself. So when people ask me, Brigitte, are you a motivational speaker? Hell no, I'm not a motivational speaker, because I cannot motivate you, right? I can only motivate myself. Now I can give you great strategies and steps that will get you into a state of motivation, but I cannot motivate you. So bringing it back in and looking at your inner circle, your circle of influence, what is in my control? What can I do right now? If I take inventory in myself, say the kids are gone, the husband's gone, you know, okay, now let me look at everything else outward. How about you focus inward? Yes, and that's hard to do because it's easy to focus outward. It's easy to look at all the things that might be working or might not be working in for an excuse outward, but looking inward and taking inventory. So what's not working within me? Like I had to do with my business. So I'm getting the same feedback over and over again from the teachers that are leaving my business, that it's just hard to work with Brigitte because she's, you know, ready, fire, aim kind of person, and she wants it done yesterday. Well, yes, that has everything to do with me, had nothing to actually do with them. There was a common denominator of feedback that I was getting, and that was, as I was taking inventory, that was an immediate sign to myself, I got to do something here. I got to focus in my circle of influence rather than in my circle of concern, because the circle of concern I have no control over. Right.
So what was something you did? I mean, we both know it, but our audience doesn't. So how did you embark on that journey of, well, self-discovery or so?
Yeah, so I first had to take inventory and learn what is not working and write that out. So I wrote out a T-chart of everything that's not working. And then I was looking, okay, so in order to compensate what's not working, I got to work on myself. And I started learning about the bank methodology, learning about that there are people that are not like me. There are people that are actually not as, you know, rigid and structured as I am, or ready, fire, aim.
For
But
those of
that is
you
not-
who heard her say and you don't know what that means, it is the bank methodology is a personality profiling system that Brigitte is really good at.
And I became really good at it because I studied it heavily, and then I started teaching it as well. So, looking at that, not everyone is like me, and not everyone processes information like me or values things that I value. That was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Really? Not everyone is like me? That was just a big awakening. I know it sounds silly, but it is. So when I was able to appreciate that there are people that value other things, that there are people that process information in a different way, that was a game changer for me. So that was some internal work that I had to do. And it was way more than just the self-development. It was, putting it into my business and adding it as a business development tool was, I think, one of the best strategies that I have ever put in my business. And then continuing, that journey and learning more about neurolinguistic programming and going even deeper of that there are different models of the world, that everyone has their own model of the world, and it's as unique as their fingerprint.
Perfect.
Can we say, or would both of you agree that one of the success strategies, not only across culture in general, as you work in a business or on your own business, is continuous learning?
Yeah.
Are you asking me?
Both of you. So I like the phrase.
Learn, you die.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a phrase that I hear often, and it may sound a little over the top, but if we don't grow, we die. That's the course of nature. A tree or a plant that stops growing will die off, and entropy will take it apart. So as long as we keep up the energy towards growth, then we will move forward. Whether that always makes us better people, that I let others be the judge, but they're as long as we have that drive to improve and to grow, will we thrive in a business. I think any entrepreneur will confirm that. One question before we let you go, I want to touch on the female part of it. I often get this question in cultural trainings from female participants: what is the gender equality or inequality situation in the culture that I will be entering? So, and we do a lot of work between North America and the German-speaking parts of Europe, and people from Canada, women from Canada and the US often ask me, well, what's the glass ceiling or the women's work situation in Germany like? Is it like it is here in North America? And as a man, I have an answer, but I'm not sure if I have the best answer. So you spent many years in corporate Germany as a woman, and you built businesses here in the United States. How do you see the two continents compare on opportunities, equalities, and the general role of females in society?
I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that question, because I just do my thing, right? Looking back at corporate Germany, I was working for an Australian boss, and oh yeah, we're not going to go there. But
had nothing to do with his nationality.
Nothing to do with that.
Everything to do with some personality deficit.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, we're going to leave it at that. I don't know. I do not take on any kind of glass ceiling that someone tries to put on me. And yet, looking back in corporate Germany, I wasn't paid this in the same pay bracket as a male counterpart in a managing position that I was in. I know that my male counterpart made more money than I did back then. So I really, Christian, that's a good question, but I'm really not the right person to ask because, we came to the United States and we came to a small town in Tennessee where I was a female and I had to earn my right to be there and to be credible and to be listened to. And it took time. And I think I mastered it. I think I was getting the credibility after I did a lot of work and put a lot of work into it. I think I did get a lot of credibility. And I was, moving forward from working in corporate Germany and then moving to the United States, building a business. I was one of the fast-track female speakers on large stages globally of the world's largest self-development company, where mostly men are speaking from stage and selling from stage, because apparently women cannot sell from stage. Well, that's a myth. That's a huge myth. Women are just different.
I asked you that question deliberately, knowing that you would say what you said, that you don't feel qualified or that you won't be the one with the best answer to that. However, I know you long enough. I've known you not long enough to know this, that you're one of the women, and I know several women who are like you in that regard, who say, I don't care what society's labels want to slap on me as whether it's a glass ceiling or a role that I am supposed to be in. I create my own label. So you've always had, this is probably why I was so attracted to you to begin with, because you did not accept a label that others, a label that came from the circle of concern. You only accepted your own label. And whether that might be a strategy that can not only work for you and women like you, could that potentially be a strategy that could work for others as well, to not allow ourselves to be defined by the labels that others think are best for us?
Yes. And that's, I carry that torch, with flames and with enthusiasm before my children. I hope that they grow up, and I think they are, excuse me, to not grow up and think they have to fit in some sort of box. And the women that I work with and the men that I work with are allowing themselves to step into the greatest self that they are and not take on little labels of society. And as society, we've become so good at doing that. Enough with that.
Yeah.
That takes guts.
Yeah. It takes you out of your comfort zone, for sure. And we've talked about that before, and I intentionally wrote the description of this episode and I thought about this, I thought how to use that empowering identity, both as a woman, as an entrepreneur, and as an immigrant, right? I didn't want to say like, oh, well, it's all challenge, right? It's like Patricia, our wonderful, one of our wonderful mentors who joins us pretty much every episode and is on this episode and listening. Is it someone like her? These are the people that I look up to, that I want my daughters to be modeled by. I don't want her to look at me. I want to care for her. I want to, give her the direction and the inspiration to do what she can do, but I can't do it like another woman does. I can't do it like a woman of color does, even though she's not going to grow up as a woman of color, but use that same, bearing that torch, and that with that same inspiration from those people. So, that is something that we need the world to learn, that these are actually empowering attributes, not attributes that we should battle against all the time, even though you're still going to have to battle. Don't have to, we're not diminishing the fact that you have to battle, but that's what I always kind of look to when I want to put people in front of my daughter, Yeah.
I I have one more thought that I think the world should hear, at least on this episode, is you talk about, Brigitte, you talk about working with clients, coaching clients, consulting clients, and you talk about other women. And I think your avatar ideal client you've always described as this entrepreneurially minded woman, often a mother. And yes, you have many of those in your clientele. However, I think, and you tell that story better than I do, but you have one signature client that completely fell out of that, or two of them. Yes, care to explain?
Yeah, so my avatar, actually, her name is Vivian. I have a very vivid avatar, and I know exactly where she shops and how many kids she has and what she drives and all of that.
Thank God her name's not Karen.
I would have fired my avatar by then. Sorry. No story.
No disrespect to people named Karen, but particular Karen. You know, I'm sorry. I know.
But two of my legacy clients, and I have many male clients that continue to work with me and choose to work with me, that are straight. But two of my legacy clients, one is a rabbi and another one is an OBGYN. And, I've been working with Rabbi Ilan for, I want to say 6 years, maybe longer. And he's an incredible man. And
Yeah, he was a guest on our show. And
that's right. Yes.
I think you tell the story how he approached you, because here's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
German blonde, you saw the hand gestures, right? This is how I'm going to manage my work, right? And she was approached by the rabbi. So tell that story real quick. 1 minute.
So I was in a room of where I was speaking, and Rabbi Ilan came to me and he says, I want to work with you. I want to be coached by you. I said, no. You don't understand. He says, what? I said, I'm German. You're a rabbi. That's not going to work. And he says, why is it not going to work? And I said, well, clearly I'm German. You're a rabbi, right? And he says, well, and he flat out asked me, he says, did you kill any Jews? And I'm like, no. And he says, well, then we don't have a problem. So, and I have a great relationship with him. Huge shout out to Rabbi Ilan.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm trying to find the episode here on my little file here. What episode was Rabbi Ilan?
80s or so, 70s or 80s. I forget.
Yeah, somewhere back then. I was at episode number 57.
Oh, wow.
Like 43 episodes ago. But that was a great chat when we had Rabbi Ilan on. Yeah, so it's fantastic. Yeah, great.
Well, thank you for being the chainsaw juggler that you are, and thank you for joining us today, Brigitte.
Thanks for having me. That was awesome. Thanks
very much. And I just want to say thank you to my collaborator in crime here, Mr. Christian. 100 episodes. I'm very proud. I'm very proud to work with you, sir. You're just an inspiration, and
likewise.
We hopefully push each other and inspire each other in whatever ways we can to turn up every day. Thank you to the people who have been here for 100 episodes that have watched. And if you're watching this 10 years later, yes, put your questions in.
Yes, here is the arrow that's pointing you to where you get involved and be the inspiration for us, all right? So
that's right.
Make sure you don't forget to say your piece.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. See you next week for episode 101. We're into the next century of episodes.
I have a great idea for the next episode. We'll talk.
Cool. Okay.
Thanks, Brigitte.
See ya, Brigitte.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Ciao.